In a small Massachusetts town, Emily Johnson's day began with the alarm clock at 4 in the morning. She had been working as a janitor in the same office building for 14 years without change. After graduating high school, she had hoped to go to college, but her mother Linda coldly dismissed her dreams. "You don't have the talent for studying. Face reality." Since then, Emily had lived quietly, with no expectations from her family. Her room was the smallest in the house, a closet-like space under the stairs on the first floor. Meanwhile, her sister Sophia was given the bright corner room on the second floor. When Emily finished her morning preparations and headed to the kitchen, Linda was sitting on the sofa drinking coffee. Her mother's attitude toward Emily was always harsh. "Oh, you're leaving already? But before you go, please take out the trash and hang up the laundry." "Yes, Mom," Emily answered quietly. "And on your way home, please pick up groceries. Sophia is having a colleague over for dinner tonight. Make sure you buy proper ingredients." Linda's tone carried the coldness of treating Emily like a housekeeper. As Emily hurried through her chores without time for breakfast, light footsteps could be heard from upstairs. "Good morning, Mama." Her sister Sophia came down the stairs. After graduating from a prestigious university, she had gotten a job at a famous local bank and currently worked in loans. Her beautiful blonde hair and refined features were inherited from her mother, and she always wore a confident expression. "Good morning, Sophia. Today's an important day." Linda's face suddenly brightened. "Yes, tonight's dinner party will definitely be a success. Emily, make sure you buy high-quality ingredients. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of my colleagues." Sophia looked down at Emily with condescending eyes. It was hard to believe they were sisters who grew up in the same house. Their treatment was so different. Emily just nodded without saying anything. "You really are excellent, Sophia. Emily should learn from you," Linda said deliberately loud enough for Emily to hear. After Emily left for work, her cell phone rang in the afternoon. Seeing the name on the screen, a rare smile crossed her face. "Dad." "Emily, how are you doing?" came the gentle voice of Michael Johnson from the other end. Her father worked as a manager at a major corporation and had been living alone for work for 3 years. The monthly phone calls from her father were Emily's only source of emotional support. "I'm fine. How's your health, Dad?" "Thank you, I'm fine. Work is tough, but thinking of you all keeps me going." "Are Mom and Sophia doing well?" Emily hesitated. She had never told her father the real situation at home. She knew that her mother and sister acted completely differently in front of him. "They're both fine. Sophia seems busy with work." "I see. Don't push yourself too hard, Emily. You're such a kind girl. I'm proud of how you always think of the family." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes at her father's words. She believed with all her heart that this kindness was genuine. "Thank you, Dad." After hanging up, Emily quietly wiped away tears in the workplace restroom. Her father was the only person who truly understood her. That evening, when Emily returned home with expensive groceries, Sophia's colleagues were chatting happily in the dining room. As she helped prepare food in the kitchen, she listened to the laughter coming from the living room. "What kind of work does Sophia's older sister do?" one of the colleagues asked. Linda immediately answered. "Oh, Emily works in cleaning." "Well, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. A high school graduate janitor is honestly embarrassing," Sophia said with a laugh. "But someone has to do those jobs." Emily's hands stopped as she washed dishes in the kitchen. This was the first time she had been spoken of so blatantly humiliatingly in front of the family. She took a deep breath and quietly continued washing dishes. After dinner ended, Emily cleaned up alone. After the guests left, Linda and Sophia relaxed in the living room watching TV. "Emily, please prepare breakfast for tomorrow morning too," Linda called toward the kitchen. "I understand." That night, when Emily returned to her small room, she stared at the small mirror hanging on the wall. Her tired face looked back at her. Brown hair, brown eyes, slightly tanned skin. As she looked in the mirror as usual, she suddenly felt something was off. She thought about family photos. Her mother Linda had blonde hair and blue eyes, and her sister Sophia had similar features. Her father Michael had black hair, but his eyes were greenish-blue. Emily stared intently at herself in the mirror. Why was she the only one who didn't resemble anyone in the family? A question she had never considered before began to slowly sprout in her heart. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, Sophia came running into the living room with excitement. She was clutching a small blue velvet box in her hand. "Mom, look. Brad proposed to me." Linda's face instantly lit up. "Oh, really? Let me see, let me see." When Sophia showed her the ring, Linda cried tears of joy. The 3-carat diamond sparkled brilliantly in the morning light. Brad Wilson was a partner at a famous local law firm and had been dating Sophia since college. "Our daughter is going to be a lawyer's wife," Linda sighed happily. Emily, who was making coffee in the kitchen, also felt genuinely happy hearing their conversation. Despite her complicated feelings toward her sister, she wanted to sincerely celebrate Sophia's happiness. "Congratulations, Sophia," Emily called toward the living room. "Thank you," Sophia turned around, but coldness remained in her expression. "So, we've decided to have an engagement party next month. We want to invite all our relatives and celebrate in a big way." Linda clapped her hands in delight. "What a wonderful idea. We'll have to contact your father. I'm sure he'll take time off work to come home. But there's one condition." Sophia suddenly became serious. "Emily, I'd like you to serve at the party. It's my special day, so I want everything to be perfect." Emily was surprised. "Serve? But I'm family." "Of course you are. But you're the most reliable." Sophia's words had superficial kindness, but Emily sensed another intention hidden beneath. Linda interjected. "That's a good idea. Emily will handle it perfectly. Should we prepare a uniform too?" "A uniform?" Emily's voice trembled. "A black dress with a white apron. Proper serving attire," Sophia said matter-of-factly. "I want to make a good impression on my guests." Emily couldn't say anything. The shock of being treated like hired help rather than celebrating as family at her own sister's engagement party was enormous. However, opposing it might ruin the family's important day. A month later, Michael came home for the first time in 3 years. Emily went to pick up her father at the airport and spent time alone with him for the first time in a while. "Emily, you've become so beautiful," Michael said in the car. "I've missed you these 3 years." "Me too, Dad," tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "Has everyone in the family been well? I hear from Mom occasionally on the phone." Emily hesitated for a moment but smiled and answered as usual. "Everyone's fine. Sophia seems really happy." When they arrived home, Linda and Sophia greeted their father at the entrance. Michael warmly embraced his wife and daughter, expressing his joy at the family being together again. However, their attitude toward Emily remained unchanged even in front of their father. It just became more superficially polite. On the day of the engagement party, Emily was busy with preparations from morning. Wearing a black dress with a white apron, she looked like an actual servant. When she looked in the mirror, she was surprised by how strange she felt. Was this really her? At 3 in the afternoon, relatives began arriving one after another. Uncle George, Aunt Martha, Cousin Tom, and Grandma Johnson from her father's side also attended in a wheelchair. Emily took coats at the entrance and went around serving drinks. "Emily dear, it's been a while," Aunt Martha called to her. "But why are you wearing a uniform?" Linda quickly intervened. Emily volunteered to help. "She's such a sweet girl." Martha looked confused but said nothing more. Emily continued serving drinks silently. As the party reached its peak, Emily went back and forth between the kitchen and the venue. She wasn't allowed to participate in family conversations and felt like an invisible person. When Cousin Tom passed by her, he said quietly, "Emily, this is a bit harsh, isn't it? Your family too." It's okay, Tom, Emily smiled. It's my sister's special day. However, inside her heart, humiliation and loneliness swirled. She hadn't realized how painful it would be to be excluded from the family circle and treated not as a guest but merely as labor. Near evening, Grandma Johnson called Emily over. Though confined to a wheelchair, the grandmother had sharp observational skills. "Emily, come here for a moment." When Emily approached her grandmother, Grandma Johnson took her hand. "You look tired, dear. Thank you for today." Grandma Johnson stared intently at Emily's face. Then she murmured in a small voice. "How strange. Emily, you don't resemble anyone in our family." At that moment, Emily's heart almost stopped. Her grandmother continued. "Michael is my son, but your eye color and hair color don't exist in our family line. You're completely different from Linda and Sophia too." Emily was speechless. Her grandmother's words crystallized the doubt she had been feeling deep in her heart for 3 weeks. "But genetics are mysterious things," Grandma Johnson smiled gently. "Sometimes features from many generations back can appear." That night, after the party ended and the relatives went home, Emily sat in her room repeatedly thinking about her grandmother's words. Looking at herself in the wall mirror, she compared her face with family photos. Indeed, she couldn't find any resembling features anywhere. Hair texture, eye shape, nose height, everything was different. From the next room came the voices of Linda and Sophia celebrating the party's success. Michael had joined them, and the three were talking happily. The reality that only Emily was excluded became even clearer. Late at night, when the house became quiet, Emily lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Her grandmother's words wouldn't leave her mind. Perhaps there was a reason for the discomfort she had been feeling. Maybe there was a deep reason why she alone received different treatment within the family. A certain resolve began to form in Emily's heart. She wanted to know the truth. She wanted to find answers about who she was, why she didn't resemble anyone in the family, and why she alone was treated differently. A strong desire to find those answers welled up inside her. 3 days after the party, Grandma Johnson's words still wouldn't leave Emily's mind. During work, while doing housework, that question kept spinning around in her head. On Tuesday afternoon, Emily was having lunch with her colleague Maria in the break room of the office building she cleaned. Maria was a Hispanic woman in her mid-50s and the only person at work Emily could open her heart to. "Emily, you seem down lately. Is something wrong?" Maria asked with concern. Emily hesitated but was moved by Maria's kindness to confide in her. She talked about being treated differently within the family, having physical features that didn't resemble anyone, and her grandmother's words. "Oh my, that's serious?" Maria listened with a serious expression. "But there's an easy way to investigate now. There's something called DNA testing, you know?" "DNA testing?" "Yes, you just send saliva and you can find out blood relationships. My daughter used it to trace her roots. You can order it online, and results come back in a few weeks." Emily learned about this method for the first time. "Can you really do that?" "Of course. If you want to know the truth, it's worth trying. But depending on the results, you might be shocked, so you need to be prepared." That night, Emily opened her laptop in her small room. When she began researching DNA testing, she discovered many companies offered this service. The price was within reach. However, she hesitated when she realized she would also need family samples. How could she collect DNA samples from her family? She couldn't ask Linda, Sophia, and Michael directly. It was still just suspicion, and if she was wrong, it might create irreparable rifts in family relationships. The next night, Emily secretly put her plan into action. First, she collected hair from Michael's toothbrush in the bathroom. Her father was scheduled to leave for another business trip tomorrow, so this was her last chance. Next, she gathered several strands of hair from Linda's bedroom. For Sophia's sample, she took hair from the brush she often used. With her heart pounding, Emily carefully put each sample in separate small bags. She felt like a detective, but at the same time felt guilty for suspecting her family. A week later, Emily ordered a DNA testing kit online. She had it delivered to her workplace so her family wouldn't know. During the few days until the kit arrived, she spent sleepless nights filled with anxiety and anticipation. Friday afternoon, Maria handed Emily a small box. "This arrived for you." Emily received the kit with trembling hands. Inside were 4 test tubes and detailed instructions. Collecting saliva was easier than she had expected. After finishing her own sample, she put the family samples she had collected at home into the other tubes. The instructions said results would take 3 to 4 weeks. Emily went to the post office the next morning to send the samples. The moment she dropped them in the mailbox, she realized there was no turning back. The following 3 weeks were the longest period of Emily's life. Every day she checked her cell phone email and looked at the mailbox multiple times. Daily interactions with her family also began to look different than before. Especially when talking with Michael on the phone, she felt complicated emotions. If the test results showed no blood relationship, how would this kind father see her? On the other hand, every time she saw Linda and Sophia's cold attitudes, her suspicion grew stronger that perhaps they knew something. On Tuesday of the 4th week, when Emily returned from work, there was a thick envelope in the entrance mailbox. The moment she saw the sender's name, her heart began beating wildly. The results had finally arrived. Emily ran to her room with the envelope. Her hands were shaking so much she failed several times to open it. She took a deep breath to calm herself, then carefully took out the contents. The first page had her basic information printed on it. When she turned to the next page, Emily's world changed in an instant. No blood relationship found between test subject Emily Johnson and sample B Michael Johnson. Probability of father-daughter relationship is below 0.001%. Emily read the words over and over. She couldn't accept reality. Looking at the other results, blood relationship with Linda was also denied. However, the most shocking was Sophia's result. 99.7% probability of half-sister relationship between test subject Emily Johnson and sample D Sophia Johnson. Emily couldn't stand up from her chair. The papers in her hand fell to the floor. The fact that she and Sophia were half-sisters meant that Linda had given birth to her with another man. And that Michael was not her real father. Tears streamed down her cheeks. However, it wasn't just sadness, but complex emotions about finally solving the mystery of the discomfort she had felt for years. Everything was explained: why she received different treatment within the family, why her physical features didn't resemble anyone. Linda had been hiding this secret for 33 years. And Michael had been deceived all along. Anger welled up in Emily's heart. At the same time, gratitude for the father who had loved her as his real daughter also overflowed. After a while, Emily picked up the papers from the floor. Reading through the detailed analysis results, even more surprising information was recorded. Her genetic background included not only European ancestry but also a small amount of Native American blood. This was an element that didn't exist at all in the Johnson family tree. Emily gazed out the window and thought, what should she do with these results? Should she tell her family the truth, or should she maintain the status quo without saying anything? However, one thing was certain. Having found answers to the questions that had tormented her for years, new strength was welling up in Emily's heart. Now that she knew the truth, perhaps she no longer needed to silently endure as she had before. She carefully put the papers away in her drawer. Starting tomorrow, she would face her family with a different perspective. And she felt that someday she would find the courage to confront this truth. That night, Emily was able to sleep deeply for the first time in a while. The relief of having her long-standing questions answered and anticipation for a new life filled her heart. She was beginning to understand that truth, though sometimes painful, was far more valuable than living in falsehood. 1 week after learning the DNA test results, Emily continued to struggle with how to interact with her family. Now that she knew the truth, she understood all too painfully the reason for Linda and Sophia's cold attitudes. Perhaps they had been living with guilt and fear while harboring secrets. Friday night, Michael called. "Emily, I'm planning to come home next weekend. Let's spend some relaxed time together as a family. I understand, Dad, Emily answered, but complex feelings swirled in her heart. She still hadn't decided whether to tell Michael the truth. However, fate didn't give her time to choose. The next Saturday, when Emily returned from shopping, Linda and Sophia were having a serious conversation in the living room. Hearing Emily close the front door, the two suddenly fell silent. "Welcome home, Emily," Linda's voice had unusual tension. "I'm home." Emily carried the shopping bags to the kitchen while observing their behavior. Something was wrong. Then Sophia stood up. "Emily, we need to talk. Please sit down." Emily was confused. This was the first time her sister had formally requested a discussion. "What about?" Linda and Sophia looked at each other. Then Linda slowly opened her mouth. "Emily, haven't you been researching something lately? Specifically, something about the family?" Emily's heart began beating wildly. "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb," Sophia's voice became sharp. "We know you received a DNA testing kit at work." Emily was astounded. "How did you?" "It was Maria," Linda said coldly. "She's the daughter of an old friend of mine. She contacted me out of concern. She said you were having doubts about the family." Emily felt betrayed. She never imagined that Maria, whom she trusted, had been reporting to her mother. "So, what were the results?" Sophia asked directly. Emily hesitated for a moment but realized it was impossible to hide it any longer. "What you're thinking." Linda's face went pale. "Emily, that is. Dad and I have no blood relationship. But Sophia and I are half-sisters." Emily's voice trembled but she spoke clearly. "That means, Mom, you had an affair 33 years ago and gave birth to me." Heavy silence filled the living room. Linda covered her face with her hands, and Sophia stared at the floor. Finally, Linda began speaking in a trembling voice. "Emily, I was young. Michael was always working and rarely home. I don't want to hear excuses." Emily's voice grew stronger. "What I want to know is the truth. Who is my real father?" "Robert Harrison," Linda answered in a small voice. "He was a colleague of Michael's at the company. But he died of cancer 10 years ago." Emily leaned back in her chair. Her real father was no longer alive. Sophia spoke up. "Emily, we were just trying to keep the secret. We didn't want to destroy the family." "Didn't want to destroy the family?" Emily stood up. "You've never treated me as family. You were embarrassed that I was a janitor, treated me as a servant, ignored me as if I didn't exist. And now you talk about family?" "That was..." Sophia started to say, but Emily interrupted. "You never loved me once. That's because I'm a child with no blood relationship, right? But Dad was different. Dad loved me as his real daughter. Blood relationship didn't matter." Linda began crying. "Emily, please. Don't tell Michael. He doesn't know anything. If he finds out now, he'll surely break." "That's right," Sophia also pleaded. "Daddy loves you. If he knew the truth, imagine how shocked he'd be." Emily looked at the two of them. The people who had tormented her for years were now seeking salvation from her. It was an ironic situation. "Because Dad loves me, continuing to lie is wrong," Emily said quietly. "He has the right to know the truth." "But Emily," Linda said desperately. "Think about it. If Michael knew the truth, our marriage would be over. The family would fall apart. You might lose your father too." Those words shook Emily. Indeed, when Michael learned the truth, how would he see her? He might become angry at being deceived for 33 years and come to hate Emily too. "Give me time," Emily finally said. "I can't decide immediately." "Emily, please," Sophia stood up and took her sister's hand. "We may have done terrible things. But we want to protect the family." Emily shook off her sister's hand. "What you want to protect isn't the family, but your own secrets. That night, Emily sat alone in her room, continuing to think. Looking at the DNA test results carefully stored in her drawer, she wondered what she should do from now on. The next Sunday, Michael called. "Emily, I'll be home Friday. I want to eat your home cooking for the first time in a while." "Dad," Emily said impulsively. "I have something important to tell you." "What is it? Can't you tell me over the phone?" Emily hesitated. "It's something important that I can only talk about in person." "I understand. I'm looking forward to Friday, Emily." After hanging up, Emily made her decision. Regardless of what Linda and Sophia thought, Michael had the right to know the truth. He had lived as a false father for 33 years. But at the same time, for 33 years, he had loved Emily as his real daughter. That love wasn't fake. There was a heart-to-heart connection deeper than blood relationship. Monday morning, Emily declared to Linda and Sophia, "I'm going to tell Dad everything on Friday. You should be there too. This is the whole family's problem." Linda covered her face and cried, while Sophia showed a desperate expression. However, Emily's resolve was firm. "Emily, one last request," Linda said tearfully. "No matter how terrible a mother and sister we've been, please don't hurt Michael." "I don't intend to hurt Dad," Emily replied. "But truth sometimes comes with pain. Even so, I think it's far more valuable than lies." Friday evening, Michael came home after 3 weeks away. Her father, who came straight from the airport, embraced Emily with his usual warm smile. "Emily, I'm so happy to see you. What did you want to talk about?" The 4 family members gathered in the living room. Linda sat with a pale face gripping her hands, and Sophia sat anxiously on the edge of the sofa. "Dad, please sit down," Emily took a deep breath. "I have something important to discuss." Michael saw his daughter's serious expression and sat in the chair, confused. "What's wrong? Everyone looks so serious." Emily took out the DNA test results she had carefully stored in her drawer. "Dad, I had a DNA test done. I want you to see the results." "A DNA test? Why would you do that?" Michael tilted his head. "I had always wondered why I didn't resemble anyone in the family." Emily handed the papers to Michael. "The results showed that we have no blood relationship." Michael took the papers and turned the pages with trembling hands. As he read through the test results, his complexion gradually changed. "What does this mean?" Michael stared at Linda. Linda stood up and knelt before her husband. "Michael, please listen. I was young and foolish. You were busy with work, and I was alone. Robert," Michael's voice became low. "You had Emily with Robert Harrison." I'm sorry," Linda continued, apologizing through tears. Michael stood up and walked around the room. The shock of 33 years of believed reality crumbling was immeasurable. However, after a few minutes, he stood in front of Emily. "Emily," Michael's voice was quiet but had firm resolve. "You are my daughter. Whether there's a blood relationship or not, that doesn't change." Tears overflowed from Emily's eyes. "Dad. For 33 years, I've loved you. I heard your first words, watched your first steps, attended your school performances. When you had a fever, I stayed up all night taking care of you. Those memories aren't fake. You are my precious daughter." Michael embraced Emily. "Thank you for telling me the truth. It was a brave thing to do." Sophia said tearfully, "Daddy, please forgive us. We've done terrible things to Emily too." Michael looked at Linda and Sophia with a stern expression. "Not only did you deceive me for 33 years, but you didn't treat Emily as family. That's unforgivable." "But Daddy," Sophia pleaded. "I want you to leave." Michael's decision was clear. "This house belongs to Emily and me. It's time for you to take responsibility for your choices." The next morning, Linda and Sophia packed their belongings and left the house. Linda approached Emily one last time. "Emily, I'm sorry I couldn't love you. But that was because of my weakness. You've grown into a wonderful person. A week later, something interesting happened. Emily's cell phone rang from an unknown number. Is this Emily Johnson? I'm David Harrison, brother of the late Robert Harrison. Emily was surprised. The DNA testing company contacted me. They said you're my late brother's daughter. If it's all right with you, I'd like to meet. Emily thought for a moment before answering. I'm sorry, but I don't intend to meet. I already have a family. After hanging up, Emily reported to Michael. Dad, was that the right choice? I respect your choice, Emily, Michael smiled. Family isn't determined only by blood relationships. It's determined by love and bonds. Several months passed. Emily continued her janitorial work while beginning to study business administration at night school. Michael helped with the expenses. You have wonderful potential, Michael often said. Age doesn't matter. Pursue what you want to do. One evening at dinner, Michael said to Emily, actually, I've decided to take early retirement from the company. I want to spend more time with you. But what about your work, Dad? I've learned there are things more important than work. Time with the daughter I almost lost. Emily hugged her father while crying. Even without blood relationship, the love was real. And that love was proof of true family. When 33 years of lies were revealed, the Johnson family broke apart once. However, on those ruins, a new family based on stronger and truer foundations was born. Emily and Michael were truly father and daughter, bound by deep bonds that transcended blood relationships.